In November last year, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau formally apologized to all gender and sexually diverse Canadians for the past criminalization and systematic oppression they face from Canada's government. Today, our service wants to acknowledge and apologize for our role in that history. As police officers, we swear an oath to uphold the laws of the land, regardless of our personal beliefs about those laws. However, we have learned through our history that we can fulfill our duty with far more compassion and respect than we have shown gender and sexually diverse Calgarians in the past. Before the decriminalization of homosexuality in 1969, the culture within our service contributed to the marginalization of the gender and sexually diverse community. This happened through the actions, internal publications, and statements made in the media by our officers and leaders of that time. Instead of supporting members of this community, when talks of changing the law began, our service spoke against the decriminalization of homosexuality. After the law changed, our organization struggled to embrace the new direction and evolve. Our slow transition towards inclusivity, equality, and diversity had made many missteps along the way, including not issuing a permit for the Pride Parade in the 1980s and showing little commitment to building a relationship with the gender and sexually diverse communities until the late 1990s. And not fully considering the impacts of a 2002 Goliath bathhouse raid and the impacts that would have on the community. Throughout our history, we have fallen short of properly understanding your diverse cultures, protecting your dignity, and honoring your voices. Today, we recognize that our past actions have not shown gender and sexually diverse Calgarians the level of respect and compassion that our service values. Inclusivity is the cornerstone of a strong city, which is something that took us a long time to understand. For many in our city, the approach our service took during our slow change has created mistrust, dislike, and fear of the very organization that you should be able to turn to for help. By denying you the compassion and respect you deserve, we contributed to the systemic discrimination and marginalization that has marked your history. We are sorry for the role we played in this painful part of your past. The relationship between your community and our service has improved greatly in recent years, but we know there is still a lot of work to be done so that all gender and sexually diverse Calgarians can fully trust the police. We know that there is especially a lot of work left to better serve those who face intersectional discrimination. Our service is committed to continuing this important work with you. And we promise that we will continue working to earn the trust of your community. We belong to all Calgarians. Our hope is that someday all Calgarians, regardless of their identities, will truly know that we are there for them. And that concludes that part of the speech, so I will take questions then from the audience.
Roger, why now? Why come up with this policy at this point in time?
This over the last few years, we've been working to better understand how we build trust with our GSD community. The most topical items come up around Pride, around why police are in or why they're not in. But largely, as we work with our advisory council in our communities, it became necessary to understand that we have history. We have a culture and a history that has sort of led us to where we are. And using the words, "I'm sorry," can be meaningful for an institution like policing to come forward and say, there are things we could have done better in the past, and we are evolving into the future. And we want to make sure we can't move forward until we've at least acknowledged the past to say, well, this is something that we could have done better.
Who did you consult with or meet with in formulating your policy?
We work fairly broadly across the GST community. We have an advisory council that works with our executive. We work with academics in the city. We look to learn better understanding of education for our executive officers. We do different things across the wide spectrum to make sure we've heard from people and talked throughout. We've talked to the people in our organization, those who have participated in some of the events of the past, and made sure we had a really good understanding of what the issues were and a better understanding of what needs to happen in order for us to move forward.
Have you heard whether you'll be welcome in the Pride Parade?
The decision on Pride Parade is going to happen later on. We'll have some announcement of that coming up, but this is not an issue that was focusing on Pride. Pride is an event. It's an important event in the city, but it's a day. Our issues are really more broadly speaking about how are we going to relate every day to our GST communities, how are we going to create that sort of sense of trust and accomplishment and social justice and fairness in a community that has not had that so much in the past from us. And this is really about that. It's about how we work every day with an important community in our city.
One of the main concerns from the Pride community has been that there hasn't been enough training or enough building with relationships with these diverse communities. Can you just tell us a little bit about the training that you are doing for your new recruits and right now as well?
Yeah, not only do we provide training for recruits, we provide training for our executive as well. So our executive starts to understand these issues so they can lead through these conversations. We've hosted several forums this last few months to sit down with various parts of the GST community in the city and spend several hours in each one of those sessions talking to them about the issues and the problems and what needs to change, what needs to evolve, what we need to understand better. Understanding this community is incredibly important, and getting it accurate is important. So the education that we're going to commit to, that we've committed to already, and that we're going to evolve into in the next iteration of our service will be important for how we lead and how we lead our younger members as well.
Do you know if it's the first time in Canada that a police service?
I'm not sure. It's just important for us to do it. I think it's important. If you have to understand the importance that policing plays in a community, people's sense of justice and fairness, and as an institution like us, to come out and say we're sorry isn't a gift. It's an understanding of our responsibility to acknowledge our communities and actually earn the trust with our communities, as diverse as they can be.
Like with those more personal dialogues that you may have had with some folks within the LGBTQ community, how has that impacted you and your members?
Well, you know what? It's an excellent question. It does impact you. It starts to show you clearly what you've missed when you try to think of everybody too homogenously, like everybody just lives the same life. Particularly when you talk about things like intersectional discrimination, the challenges people experience across a multitude of factors, where bias hits them by gender, by culture, by gender expression or sexual identities. And when you cross many of those and see how many people have felt the hurt and harm of a government or institutions that ignore that. When you simply have only the laws to deliver, when you can enforce laws as your only way to deal with community problems, you often ignore the fact that these are real people, these are real human beings that are struggling to be treated with respect and fairness. And when they look to their police service as one of the entities that is suppressing that idea of fairness, it shows you that we need to change, we need to keep evolving, we need to heighten our understanding. So, I worked here all those years too, and you do see that these are not discussions we had 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and 30 years ago. There's opportunities missed, but our opportunities are to do much better in the future, and start with the acknowledgement. It's simply okay to apologize. It's not okay to have experienced the past, but it's okay to apologize and then say, let's move forward. Let's try to take these steps to start moving forward together.
You recently announced your retirement, so how important was it to get this kind of out there before your tenure?
They weren't related. The two issues weren't related. I mean, this is something I strongly believe in our city and our profession of policing, and this need to want to evolve it was important to me for sure, but it was also important to our executive and our leadership here to make sure we're able to keep moving forward. And I would anticipate whoever occupies the position of the chief will want to keep this work moving on.
Any other questions?
And you mentioned that there's still work to be done, so specifically what are you looking at in the future?
We'll continue to work through our diversity council to make sure we're understanding the issues as they occur today, and what else we could do around education, what else we could do around our policies and our practices, where we could share voices together on issues that are affecting community. But we'll have to make sure that we're seen to be that institution that's open to that discussion, and these community forums and other ways that we can instill the idea of social fairness and justice to communities that haven't seen it.